Okay, so I told you I'd make you a quick video here on how I go about doing the dodging and burning. I've already went through several other steps here that I typically do on an image, just depending on usage. So I'll go through those real quick, and then I'll get into what I do for how I go about dodging and burning. So I labeled all these so you can see what I did through each one. First one here, I took this is obviously an image I took, and this is just a typical headshot, typically what a model is going to look like when you see him show up. As you can tell, skin is not perfect. I don't expect it to be at the end, but it's a little bit closer and more refined. So first thing I did is took a healing brush to it, and you can see there a pretty big difference between all the little spots. I made sure I left, like your birthmarks, moles, that kind of stuff in the image. Depending on who it is, sometimes they'll have me take them out. I did a little frequency separation because I've got some odd coloring up here in the top of her forehead and along the side of her cheeks here. You'll see that a little bit more here in just a minute when I get into the dodging and burning. But you can see the difference that it makes there. I did sharpen the eyes just a tiny bit, took out a little bit of the red in there. I'm not sure if she slept the night before. Whitened the teeth just a touch, you can tell it just a tiny bit there. And then did a little bit of liquify work. Took out a little bit of space back here behind her neck, and then I stretched her hair out a little bit. Everything else I left alone. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. And to do this, I'm going to hit Shift Control N, or Option Control N, or Shift Option N, the letter N as in Nancy. That's going to create a new layer. First thing I'm going to do is go down here to the bottom. I'm going to go to, for this image, I'm going to use Overlay. You can use Overlay or Soft Light. Overlay is a little bit harsher, so I'm going to use Overlay for the demonstration purposes. I'm going to fill the background here. I'm going to fill the overlay layer with neutral gray. Obviously, overlay blending mode, gray, neutral 50% gray is gone. You can't see it at all. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm going to jump over to my brush here. I've just got a regular soft round brush. Just your standard soft round brush, hardness set to 0. And I'm going to change my flow to 1%. Leave my opacity to 100 and flow at 1. That lets me build up the effect that I'm going for. I'm going to do both of them on the same layer. You could make a dual of this layer and do one for dodge, one for burn. But I'm just going to do them both on the same layer. So first thing, obviously I have some other colors selected here. Reset that to black and white. Black will be dodge, white will be burn, or backwards. Black will be burn, and then dodge will be white. I typically do the burning first. So I'm going to put the dark on first, and then I'll overlay with the white. Obviously, to switch between those two, you just hit the letter X on your keyboard. That switches between the two. So I'm going to start with black. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger and just do some pretty global adjustments here. And you can really see just how fast it starts to take shape. And all I'm going to do here, I'm just going to add a little bit to her cheeks. This side of her face needs to go down just a touch. It looks like the image is lit from the opposite side. I always like to go right around the edges just a little bit. This area under the neck, you'll really see it start to take effect here. And this is even at a 1% flow. So a lot of you are going, oh, 1% is going to take forever. It obviously doesn't. Every stroke of your brush over that specific area is just going to make it that much darker. It's 1% every time you go over it. And I like this effect because it builds up and it's a little bit more of a natural build up instead of just a flat brush over the entire image. So I go inside here in the nose, in the eyes, hit the eyebrows a bit. I really want those to be dark. Just be real careful not to go directly under the eyes. And I'm making sure to leave the highlights here, and I want that nice rosy look in the center of her cheeks. Those are natural colors. I'm just adding a little bit of shadow here and there to really make them pop out. Here I'm doing a little bit of shaping. And all I'm doing to shape it is just put a little bit more shadow underneath it. Draws a little bit of attention away from our natural creases in our neck and that kind of thing. The easiest way to dodge and burn is just to dodge, what's already a highlight, and to burn whatever's already a shadow. You're just making those stand out a little bit more. I'm dodging a little bit extra back here. I just want that arm to kind of fade off into nothing. Pull back up here. I'm just using the mouse wheel scroll here. Alright, I think I'm pretty content with where I'm at there. Put just a touch right here under her eyes. Just kind of really separate. And all I'm doing is it's basically the same thing as applying makeup. So I'm just really contouring her face, giving it a natural highlighted look where I need it to, and not so much where I don't. I keep hitting the P instead of my bracket key when I'm trying to record this. Look at my microphone sitting in my lap so I don't breathe in your ear the whole time. Just a little bit more on the burning here. And that should give me about the effect I'm going for. Let's go ahead and switch to dodging. So I'm just going to hit the letter X. I always start with the bigger areas first. I'm just using a real soft brush here, and again, I'm only on a 1% flow, so it's going to be a real gradual type effect. And you can see I always overdo it a little bit. I can always pull back on opacity later. This way I just really get the effect I'm going for. Okay, let's bring that down a little bit here. Let's see what I can pull off here. Okay, there we go. Looks nice. It's very much so like painting. I'll back that up a step or two there. I took just a touch of the dark out a little bit more than I wanted to. I kind of want to blow out the highlight areas here just a tiny bit. Because again, I'm going to pull this back. I'll pull it back in just a minute. Before I do that, I want a real lateral kind of light going across here. So even though it really wasn't there, I'm going to add it. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the hair a little bit. This is a fairly dark image, so I'm going to, well, maybe, if I can get it to stop scrolling, I'm going to hit the hair. I'm just going to lighten that up. Add a little bit of a highlight up here. I don't want it to be enough to where it's noticeably wrong. So if I touch a little too much, I can always go back over it with black in the same spot, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to pull that back. Obviously it's overdone here. Just grab the opacity, pull it down here to somewhere in this 40%, 50% range. Kind of turn it on and off, and you can really see the impact that it has on her facial structure. This completely changes the shape of the entire image just by, what did it take, 5 minutes maybe of dodging and burning. And this is just a global adjustment. Obviously you can go really deep into it with the micro stuff, but for now that should get you to where you something acceptable and something that looks, not quite as generic as most images you see on light. Obviously this is a natural light image. Last thing I would do is probably touch this area up right here on her forehead. It's still a little bit of a red glow, and I'll probably just do that with the brush. Hope you guys enjoy.